As the holiday season comes to an end, we're closing out the year. And that means we're saying goodbye to old ideas, products, and even some people. On today's program, it's Out with the Old. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You are listening to or watching This Week in MeteorJS, a weekly newscast of the MeteorJS Dispatches podcast. This is episode number 19. And I've got to say that my name is Alim. I'm your host from New York City. And we also have with us, guys.
I'm Jan Dvorak from Prague. And we are another Jan.
Yes, I'm Jan Küster from Germany. Hello.
All right, and we're gonna hop straight into the news. We've got a number of different things. We're spending a little time just talking about things that have been with us that aren't going to be there anymore, and things that really should go. So I think Mr. Küster has some ideas about what's been going on with Meteor itself and what changes are in the works.
Yes, of course, it's all about today what's out with the old. And most obvious, of course, is, and you all know it already, you heard it so many times, but I just want to say it again. Meteor is getting rid of fibers. It's out with the old. I mean, it's a 10-year-old style or pattern that has been baked in Meteor fundamentally, and it will change everything we will do with Meteor in the future. And so it's like we are saying goodbye to some kind of programming style we got used to, at least when we were programming with Meteor. And there's also another thing that is getting out, which we were maybe not actively used to, but it's also one of the core fundamentals of Meteor, and it's they get rid of connect, replaced by Express. And in the end, this will also open the platform even more to the overall JS ecosystem. I mean, Express is the basic standard for any HTTP communication when you're on the Node.js platform. And we will be open for much more middleware that is out there. I mean, we are already now, but now it's baked into the core. And with that, we hope to see also some more support for building HTTP-based APIs in no time, as we do already with the DDP RPC-style APIs. And in the end, this, again, is a foundation for even more microservice approaches, which is also something, I mean, Meteor is a monolith, and if you're into microservices, it's possible. By the way, there is also some article I wrote about some time ago, and I also joined Alim once in a stream on building microservices with Meteor. And it's possible, but I hope the platform will open up even more for that, especially with Express now being the main server component. And I don't know what you guys think about microservices, this whole architecture pattern. It's basically, this is also coming to the next topic already. It's basically the de facto suggested pattern nowadays by AWS, because of course they have split up all their services and offers in many small services. This is something they suggest you to do, but now they found in an internal investigation on architectures, it's not fitting for every use case. It's not the perfect pattern, and there are specific use cases where monolith can reduce costs by 90%. Oh my god, who would have thought about that? I mean, as a Meteor developer, I know that especially with smaller projects, I'm very cost effective with my monolith deployment, right? And so it's not the 100% de facto standard on AWS anymore. And this may be also a rethinking in some communities and for some developers, that they first investigate the use case and might take a look back if monolithic architecture might be a suitable case for a suitable solution for their use case, right?
What's really interesting to me from all of this, and especially your discussion on this, and we've talked about, as you pointed out, when we did the meetup, and you did the discussion based on your paper on how to actually build microservices with Meteor. One of the things I think that we hear a lot of people saying is that, well, we don't want to use Meteor because your applications are monoliths, as if it's just bad across the board. And what we're now hearing from the big champion, the inventor of the concept, right, of microservices, is they're saying, well, hold on a second. In certain cases, there can be a time when, by reducing things to all of these external services and using them, it's actually more costly to you. There is, these fixed startup, the fixed, service calls that you need to make. And if you're doing them over and over and over again, you incur costs. You might have data coming in and out of storage buckets that you are using in one service, doing a transformation, then putting it back in that storage bucket, and then going and using another service to do something else with it. And all of those entry and exit of data, has a cost. And rather than if you just kept it in a process and moved it, through a pipeline. So it's really interesting to see how there's sort of been this about face in terms of saying, oh, microservices are not the solution for everything. And in some cases, having a monolith can be great. And having a language or having a platform like Meteor, where building monoliths is relatively easy by comparison to, assembling everything yourself, I think it makes a really good case for Meteor having a place in the ecosystem.
Definitely. I mean, it's not the one size fit all, or it's not locking you in on the monolith, right? You can use Meteor and connect it with other services, for example, or it's part of your service infrastructure. So it's like, as they say, this is your use case specific thing.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And Kelly has a comment here. Storyteller, you want to read that out?
Yes. When you're making 300,000 a year, you're gonna over-engineer shit to justify your ridiculous salary.
Yeah, definitely.
I would say yes. I kind of, it really struck me very strange when the microservices thing came up, because it's just like, of course, kind of came like from out of nowhere, and it kind of felt like, oh, here we have like this nice, amazing example, and suddenly everybody lost their minds. Like, oh, we need to have everything needs to be, microservices. And even like one of my first employments was, oh, we are switching to microservices, and we are moving there from our at that time was Ruby on Rails monolith to that, and it just felt so strong. But I think it was over optimization at certain aspects, because it was, I think it's also thinking, oh, we just put these more processor heavy or memory heavy items into their own services and just call them when we need it. That, yes, sometimes it makes sense, but not always. And I think this is kind of a pattern that has been repeating, especially in the JavaScript and web development ecosystem a lot, that something new and cool comes around and it's all the hype and everybody starts doing it. And then, years later down the line, people reluctantly admit, okay, it's probably not the best thing for everything, while a few years prior, it's the best thing for everything should be in it, and it's going to solve all our problems. And that kind of goes back related to the main thing, analyze for your apps what is the best solution. And
it's
I think this has been actually a pretty good answer to distributed development, right? How do you get individual teams contributing to a larger project, and being able to do it in isolation where you don't fall over each other. And you can do development, in the sort of like development by contract, right? Where you have interfaces that you build to, and your individual teams are just working on these small things, and because of this, you can decouple and really isolate different portions of your code from each other, so that the speed and the work that somebody does on one component doesn't really have an impact on the rest of it. It's or minimizes the impact it has on the other side of it. And I think there's some good things to be said about that, but at the same time, I think it's like anything else, which is, you have a drill, you have a hammer, they do different things, right? And if all you do is say, well, I've got this really bright, shiny hammer, and yeah, I can make holes with it, what I'll do is I'll hammer in nails and then pull them out, whereas the drill could do it better, right? It's as if to say, like, okay, my tool can do everything, and I'm going to use it for everything, even though you have to contort the tool in order to get the result that you want. And I think this is one of those situations where it's really good for certain use cases, but not for all. And in some use cases, it may make a lot of sense to, build with monoliths instead. All right, should we move on?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, the next thing is me.
Yeah.
All right. Wow, there's a part of my writing here that has disappeared, it seems. I had something else here. All right. So we have. So here's the thing, right? There's a lot of stuff that's happened in the last couple of years. Actually, in the last however long we've been in this tech space. I mean, I've been in the space since 1998, and coming out from the period where we had Netscape becoming the first big company to go public as a tech company in the internet era. And during that time, there have been a lot of different hype cycles. And, hype is as American, as the saying goes, as Miss American Pie. And two recent tech trends have tied together with Web3 and been pushed out there: NFTs and VR. And, they've been tied together in Web3. And lately, we've just seen those things deflated. As a matter of fact, I would even say that they're relatively dead as compared to when they were being hyped up. NFTs, for instance, there was an article recently that NFTs have died a slow, painful death in 2023 and are now mostly worthless. And that seems to have been the case all through the year. We haven't seen a jump back in terms of the value of most of these NFTs. And most NFT projects have really languished or fallen by the wayside. They're really not getting any traction these days. So, if you ended up buying a piece of art on an NFT that had been valued at a very high number, it's very likely that it's probably not holding its value anymore. So I'm not sure where that's going to go, but even Meta has given up on doing NFTs. They had a project at one time where they were going to include NFTs in Facebook and in Instagram, and now they've abandoned that.
Yeah, they wanted you to buy NFT houses in the metaverse or something.
Exactly. And going straight from that, it's kind of sad because Meta really committed. It really committed to this idea when it was Facebook. And it said, you know what, we believe so much in this other concept in VR and so on. We believe there's going to be this thing called the metaverse. They changed their name for the company to Meta because they so much believed in it. And they invested up to, I think the number is 47 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars in this idea. And I realize now I have not been looking at the camera most of the time, and I've got to really learn how to keep my eye there. that it's spent so much money on it. And there've been other companies that got into this race. There was Google Glass, and you might remember if you were wearing one of those glasses, you might have remembered being called a glass hole. at some point because that's how people responded to those early adopters. And that died and came back in the industrial space for a while. And Microsoft had its own version of this called the Alt Space VR. And Google Glass has been killed off now. Microsoft Alt Space VR has been killed off. The metaverse was mentioned as, basically being abandoned and dying as Zuckerberg kind of like moved to the next shiny thing, which was GPT, any kind of the AI that's built on transformers. And but later on in the year, there was some mention that, like, your ever-loving zombies, the metaverse isn't quite dead yet. And I'm not quite sure where that is going to be. At one time, Wall Street was valuing this whole metaverse at about $5 to $15 trillion. There was quite a bit of talk on that. But then later on, I think there's been a lot of navel gazing lately as people are trying to learn from what they call the catastrophic failure of this. So there are folks out there that are saying, hey, by the way, this is just based on the current incarnation of how we thought about the metaverse, but it's going to evolve, it's going to change, and we will see it in some form in the future. At this point, it's like a dead man walking. So I think that's where we are with this.
I think I might have a few hot takes on this.
Go ahead.
Because I think what you are seeing is what happened is because now AI has become the hot thing. So all the people, I think there's this group of people who like chase the hype to grab money out of that. So same like with NFTs, they came in, they just kind of got the basic understanding and spun it out of proportions as with like other things, just to grab the money and pretty much grab the money and run in many cases. Let's be honest. And
if you're the guys behind Bored Ape, right? The Bored Ape Yacht Club, you wanted to like cash out at a certain point. You didn't want to be holding bag on everything.
Yeah, so here are like some of my NFTs. I'm kind of proud of my 404 NFT that I got in this series. But I always like fun. I never like really put any money in. But back to the point. So I think we see now a lot of people or people pretty much that were before like in the NFT and crypto sector, they have moved on to the next hype, which is AI, which in a way. It's like once the market crashes, it clears out all the fakes and all the people that were just over their heads. So I think in a way now there's an opportunity. It will take years for the NFTs to really get back to what they were meant to be, which is the non-fungible token. I have some ideas on that as well. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's something I'll be exploring in the future as well, and we can probably discuss this in a dedicated segment or episode later on. But I think that's kind of what is happening here, and of course, and then it's of course with people like these, they attract a lot of money. So that's where we have the crazy amount of investment, and especially and then we have people like Zuckerberg who once they get hyped for something, they have massive amount of resources to put towards that. And even
you realize like a $47 billion investment is larger than the GDP of a lot of countries, right?
Yes.
It's an amazing spend on something that really hasn't, borne fruit.
And I want to kind of put two points to it. What happened with, this massive investment, by Meta is that everybody else in the field, they decrease their investment to the minimum because like, hey, they are going to develop it for us and we can then just use the technology. So that was another issue. And as you mentioned, kind of the Google Glass and all that stuff, I had a very nice kind of description of, with the glass holes and all that stuff from independent journalists. That part of that was issues with marketing. that Google did not send, the demos for free to, the big newspapers and everything. And it was like the newspaper like, how dare you not send us a free demo? We are going to make it, living hell for you. So I think that also plays a big role, because like then if you think you are like the royalty and you don't get the newest gadget that you think you deserve to be, then of course you are going to be salty about that as well.
That's an interesting take. All right. Well, I think we could go on and on forever on this, but we have so much more to give today. All right. And Küster.
Yeah. So before I go into the next item, let me please remind you that we are not investing here in some bad hypothetical construct of thin air, but actually trying to provide you a great podcast with infos, good times, good talks, and many guests in the future, of course. So if you like it and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the podcast, stay up to date, stay with us, and join us the next times. And now I want to talk about something that I'm personally really sad about, but it's already, you can already say it, that Firefox is basically that. So of course this is a more ranting article we picked up, but in the end you can consider it, it's at 3% market share, and it was one of the biggest competitors to Microsoft Internet Explorer in the past. And I mean, I'm personally one of these heavy long-term users of Firefox, and mostly everything that's in the article said about it's all true. So it's in my opinion, it's really sad the whole ecosystem crashed down with the upgrade to Quantum. There are so many extensions that not work anymore. The whole UI is a mess now. If you want to extend things on the manual side, everything moved basically to Chrome. Every major browser moved to Chrome. So when you have a Vivaldi, it's basically the Chromium engine baked in with Opera or something. If you have Opera, I'm still not 100% sure how much Opera is already using the Chromium engine. I think they're also already on it. Edge is basically Chromium. So Google has a lot of power nowadays when it comes to this whole browser market share. And to me personally, I don't want to go deep into the reasons about that. I have my hot takes on this, but this will even a bigger thing than our last discussion.
Yeah.
But to me, it's personally sad. It was the browser of the free internet, as I remembered it when it came up, and now it's like this. What's the name? It's the geeky toy, or it's not even the geeky toy. I don't know what to say anymore, unfortunately. But we can say it's close to be officially gone. Yeah.
It is sad, because it is part of an era, right? I mean, Firefox comes down as the open source byproduct out of Netscape, and Netscape is the thing that launched everything. I mentioned that earlier, right? I mean, that I come from that period of the internet, and it really is a sad thing to see that it went from Netscape dominating, right, and then getting into the wars with Microsoft and losing market share over time, and eventually really kind of disappearing, and the team that's worked on that moving on to doing open source and building an open source team that gave us so many really useful things, including web standards and so on. So yeah, it's a little sad, but I think the point really is, at the end of the day, even if it's not that, it's probably like other things we mentioned, it's sort of like in this dead walking stage, right? It's not even relevant anymore in many cases, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah, I think Laurie is also commenting in the live chat. Does any non-Firefox browser have Firefox containers like add-on? This is. I just want to pick up on this. I don't know the specific answer, but these are features of Firefox that I really liked. I mean, they baked in some kind of these blocking cross-site tracking cookies and all that stuff, and have these Facebook containers blocking like this, because Facebook has this weird technique. Some website is embedding a YouTube thing, and it's already tracking stuff of you and connecting it with your profile and all that stuff. And Firefox invented this Facebook container blocking all that. And by default, because stuff like that should be opt-in, right? I mean, there are people that they're like, hey, I don't care, you can do whatever you want, and it's fine, but it should be opt-in and not opt-out, right? So that was great for Firefox, but yeah, they messed up.
I think there are some containers, but I've tried to use it, and I use Brave, and it's just it's not good enough, really, and not good. And like even here in this article, part of the downfall I would say is because Google had like some specific feature that would not display or be usable unless you were like using Chromium-based browser and other stuff. So that made it really annoying to use on Google services and similar things. And for me, what really pushed me to get kind of away and in the end chose Brave was because Firefox got on the bandwagon of censoring stuff, and I'm not sure if they in the end implemented it or not, but they were at one point pretty much certain that they're going to implement like in-browser censorship of certain domains and certain things, which was like that is, for me, it was like that is not what the browser is for. So that was for me very important, probably also because of me, my writing hobby. So I look on sometimes I get very down rabbit hole, and if it starts censoring stuff, that's just not really what I want. And with the default Chrome, I don't want that to be reported to Google as well, my history. So that's why I chose. For me right now, it's Brave. Who knows what's going to be in the future? But that's why I was originally with Firefox, because I didn't have to worry about. I could have the different containers. I privacy assurances, all that stuff, and then once you come out that you want to start inputting political stuff into your browsers, like goodbye. So.
Yikes. Speaking of speech and its forms, I just want to mention really quickly, among the things that died this year, and you could say that it's dead, but it's not dead, is Twitter dying from its incarnation that we knew, and coming back as X. And so the whole idea of this microblogging media that was acquired, that many of us had used over the years, many of us love to hate, right? I mean, there were plenty of things to like about Twitter, plenty of things to hate about it. One of the things I really liked about it was that you could use it as an automation service, and you could publish remotely to it. And so, if you wanted to, for instance, have an app that was basically like posting its logs out onto Twitter, so you could just use that as a stream, you could do that, or you could use it as a tool for doing customer support. Really, a lot of really great use cases, I thought, from it. For me right now, I've noticed that my influence on it has waned because I don't have a paid account, and I noticed that my reach has been diminished. And so I don't post as often anymore. Sure, you guys still post to some degree, but my view on this right now is, this is supposed to have been moved from this we've talked about microservices, so that's on the tip of my tongue, microblogging site, into becoming an everything app is, I think, what the vision is for it. And, my view on this right now is I'm just going to wait and see how it plays out, because right now it's a little bit of a mess. But I'm willing to give it a chance and see what happens with it. You guys have any thoughts on that before we move on?
Yes, I fully agree with you there that the way that it's moving, it's a destination other than what we are used to. And as it usually in moments of transitions, it's usually pretty messy. But at the same time, I think there is quite a lot of interesting things. For example, reducing the company by 75%, or how much was it? And the service still runs and works. Even though there were a few hiccups, I think that also kind of shows how much bloat there was, which I would say is normal for corporations. So that's a very interesting thing. But for me, I am spending there probably more time than I've ever used to. And that's because I enjoy my memes, and there's a lot more of that than there used to be. So it's a lot more fun for me.
Very cool.
I think it will transform, and it has transformed, and it will transform further. And it's in the end, it's like with these platforms, it's the same like with personalities of certain people, or certain CEOs. It's like there are multiple opinion on this, and people will decide sides. And for example, I personally see it as a tool, and as long as it's a viable tool to me, I will continue using it. And once I think it's not helping me anymore as a tool, like of source of information, or as getting connected with other people, or like posting my stuff, when this decline, I will also leave. The question is right now, who is what's the alternative right now? Yeah. And that's a hard one, especially in the microblogging thing. I think the whole social media realm is changed already. So we can also say goodbye to traditional social media as we used to. By the way,
I think there's something to be said about that, and we'll talk about that, I think, a little more as we get down to some of some of the other tech that has left us or is leaving, right, and is transitioning out. I just want to, again, there's so much that goes all the way back as we start thinking about things, and I was remembering reading a book called Netscape Time many years ago, and the CEO of Netscape at the time was this guy, Jim Barksdale. I forget exactly what Jim's background was. He might have come from Sun or someplace like that. He was I believe, a marketing guy. But on the business side, he always said that there was only two ways to make money in business. One is bundling, and the other is unbundling. And we've been seeing this in the telecom space and in the TV space, right? With cable TV, cable pretty much bundled a whole bunch of different services together and would sell it to you at a fixed price, and you would get garbage with some good stuff, right? And you couldn't differentiate it. And then we got tired of it, and then we started cord cutting, and that's the unbundling that's been happening. And it's really created a state for streaming services like Netscape and so on to come in and to really dig out a space. And so bundling and unbundling are ways of making money. That's what Jim used to say is, there's only two ways to make money in business. One is to bundle, the other is to unbundle. But the other one is, by creating lock-ins of some kind. And we can think of lock-ins as things like the Apple App Store, or, buying a PC with Windows installed already on it. And you get the picture. In streaming, there's been this notion of having a walled garden. And Disney and Paramount and all of these big media companies have decided to create their own streaming services because they were tired of paying fees to companies like Netflix and providing them licenses. And they figured, my content is worth so much more. And over the last 5 years, they've been spending billions of dollars building out their infrastructure, creating their own walled garden, taking all their content, putting it in, and then selling subscriptions to it, and hoping that you and me and every other fool out there would say, you know what, I need to get Batman, and the only place I'm going to get Batman is going to be on Paramount. And so I will pay a separate subscription fee now to get Batman, in addition to paying my Netflix. And oh, I want Star Wars, I've got to go to Disney, and I'm going to pay a separate fee. And I guess what they didn't realize is that people get sick and tired of this after a while. And some of these companies have spent so much money building new content, and Disney in particular has come out with so much stuff that after a while people stop watching it, people stop looking. And not just because there is so much of it, but also because so much of it is garbage. It's just really not good. And it's really interesting to see that this notion of these walled garden strategies are starting to fall apart now. And so, out of all of the streaming services this year, by the way, Netflix is the only one to have above and beyond a really net profitable year. Everybody else has either been treading water or has been losing money. And Disney, for instance, is doing some soul searching right now to figure out what they're going to do next, right? And so this is really an interesting thing to say. Sometimes it's not just the technology that that is the hype, but sometimes it's the business model, or believing so much in your own stuff that you don't realize that people want to see competing things next to it in order to get the value that you think that it has. In and of itself, in isolation, you've got nothing to compare it to. It could be good, it could be bad, but when you see it against something else, you'll know where you stack up, and maybe that makes you a little more competitive. So hopefully what we're going to see more and more of is more of this relicensing, distribution of content across multiple platforms, so that you could choose a platform that you want to see the types of content you want when you want it. And I think that's going to be a very interesting thing to see how that evolves. Go ahead, Küster.
Yeah, or a bundling service. This is something I hope to get like for years already. Yeah, you have one service and you pay like a fairly good amount, like 35 euros, maybe 40 euros, but you get access to like the whole range of streaming services.
Yep.
Like I think Spotify did that basically with the music industry. Why is it not possible with the streaming and movie industry and all that stuff? Yeah, that would be so awesome.
Yeah,
I have very strong feelings when it comes, especially to the quality of the content produced by these companies, and that's for another big thing. And part of that is also that I would say pride. Like, we are Disney. Of course, everybody wants, even if we produce it, everybody wants to buy it and get it. I do recall maybe like a year ago or so, I was at the family dinner, and one of the distant family members said, it doesn't matter how bad it is or whatever they produce, if it has Star Wars label on it, I'm going to give them my money. And I was like, this is why we cannot have good stuff.
I am a big Star Wars fan. I mean, I grew up with it. I loved it. I would look forward to it. I got to tell you, the last stuff from Disney has not appealed to me at all. It just felt like, it didn't feel like it was Star Wars. It just felt like every other type of content of that genre, that it was packaged in that way to kind of meet that need. And in a sense, it was kind of cookie cutter. And it did not, it did not appeal to me. And the other thing too is, in terms of content, if there's too much of it, there is no anticipation. There's no, like, to me, part of the value in getting something is because, like, you have to wait, you have to anticipate it coming. And if I'm getting like all of these different things going on at the same time, it's overwhelming. It's a lot. And there are two things from that. One is, I don't want to live in that world every single day. I have my life to live, right? I want to escape to it once in a while. I want to enjoy it that way, but I don't want to be there so immersed with all of these different things. So when they have all of these different series going on, and you need to know all of them in order to understand the new one, it loses its appeal, because I don't want to study this. This is not going to be my homework. And when it becomes homework, it's not fun, right? I don't want any
Yes,
part of that.
this is what's called the Marvelization effect. Where just so many things. And
Yep.
For me, pretty much, I consider any Disney Star Wars a fan fiction, and a bad one at that, because I think you wouldn't be, so much against it if the content was thrilling, gripping, and just remember, like Game of Thrones, like the early seasons, like how much of a cultural impact that had, how much people were like excited for every new episode. So if you had something like that, just that I don't think you would have that much of a problem that you have like a new movie every year or something, like or like maybe a couple each year. But so it's so that we don't turn to culture review channel. Let's move back to tech and see what else was killed by tech. And there are two nice sites, killedbygoogle.com, or this one I'm using right here. It's killedby.tech. And we have a nice overview here of all the stuff that has been killed by the big tech in 2023. But few things that are kind of missing here from the Apple section is, of course, that the 3-inch MacBook Pro is gone, but I think most interestingly that the Lightning port is gone as well. And this one is the casualty of the EU regulation, which pretty much stipulated USB-C as the standard that everything has to have in the EU market. And of course, that has global implication, because if the company wants to be in the EU market, then there's no sense for them to create two products, like one for EU market, one for non-EU market, especially hardware-wise. So we are saying goodbye to the Lightning port there.
Yeah, in addition to that, I'll tell you, I do some programming for the Alexa, and Amazon has lost a lot of money on these voice speakers. And for those of you who don't know, I spent 6 years at a voice tech company, which in its own way, it's an AI company. Before this became like a big thing back in the 2000s into about 2012, and so we built these things called voice applications, and that's what these smart speakers really allow you to do is build things like that, but in a different way than I was used to working with it. And among the different things that Amazon tried to do to get people to adopt it, to build applications with it, was adding this notion of celebrity voices. So when you get your Alexa or your Echo or whatever your device is called, and you talk to it, it could speak back to you. And there are a number of different synthetic voices that you could choose, but they also allowed you to subscribe to some famous voices like Samuel L. Jackson and Shaquille O'Neal and Melissa McCarthy, those three. And for 99 cents a month, you could pay to have that voice speak to you when it responded. I mean, if that's what you wanted. And so this year they've dropped it altogether. It's like not very much of an announcement. It's just like, we're not doing this anymore. And I don't know whether or not they actually got much in terms of subscriptions. It may not have been something that was very popular there, but it's certainly a feature. If you had it before and you liked it, you're not going to have it anymore. So that's gone. And related to that, in the voice space, has been another change also with another big company. And Storyteller?
Yeah, so Microsoft is, retiring or killing Cortana, which was kind of like an assistant similar to Siri. And in a way, I'm kind of surprised that they have really not upgraded, to use AI. Instead, they decided to completely pivot, and do the Bing search Copilot, or however they want to call it, which is very interesting, because Cortana, if you know the origin of the names, is from Halo games, and she is an AI assistant. So I think it would make complete sense to upgrade her to be an actual AI assistant.
Yeah. I think what they've done is they have canceled it as part of Windows. Cortana's still there, but it's not being delivered on Windows anymore, is my understanding.
I think here's something to consider, and that is that it has shown, or like the usage has shown, that these AI assistant, when they try to be as human as possible, people expect much more from them and are less error tolerant. So when Cortana tries to mimic a woman but acts like a faulty machine, it creates a very bad image. When a co-pilot, which basically is a non-human, very neutral tool, acts as in a way it's faulty or something, it's what people expect because it's a tool. It's part of the machine, and I think this is why Siri, Cortana, and even Alexa, they never got their breakthrough as these companies hoped they would. I don't know if Alexa is even in the profitable region, and I think Siri has also not the best reputation among Apple users as well. And you can see it by ChatGPT. If ChatGPT would act like, "Hey, I'm human personification, and talk to me as you want, and then I talk to you back, but it's crap I'm producing," people would say like, "What kind of tool is that? I don't want to use that." But here it is. It's just a neutral chat, and people expect that there might be some outputs that it's not 100% correct, right? So
Yeah,
I think has to do a lot.
Yeah, I think also part of this to what I mentioned before. It's again well, big managers or marketing people came in and kind of sold us this slide that it is going to be like an AI assistant. It's going to be your personal secretary, all that stuff. And again, once this era of this thing, first of all, it never materialized because the technology was not there, and second, now that the actual AI is again the big hit, everybody who was before like championing this and pushing this has moved to AI, and so there's no longer anybody probably internal left to defending it, because the people who are defending it before have moved to championing the AI stuff.
I will tell you honestly, one of the projects I have on my list is to actually integrate something like ChatGPT with an Alexa skill and see if I can, because at the end of the day, they're both conversational models, right? And see if I can just use like voice input that's translated as input into ChatGPT and get a result back, and then have it speak back that result. It's something I'm going to try to work on, because I don't remember whether or not there's a limit as to how much the skill can respond. So I've got to take a look into some of those things, but certainly it's there's opportunities, because it's just a different modality, right? One is voice, the other is like written, typed, however you might want to say it. But at the end of the day, it's basically an interface to ask a question and get a response. And on voice, it's like, you have utterances, which is what you're saying, right? That gets translated. And then they are resolved by what they call intents, right? So, it's, or actions on the intents. The intents is what you want, what semantically what you're trying to get from it. And then the responses come back. So I don't think that I think you're right. I think that people have been oversold on a lot of this, but I think this is a common theme today, right? That we've run into when we're talking about some of these techs that have died, or that are, zombies walking, is that in many cases, these are items that have been oversold, and we've been given a great impression as to what it might be, but then it turns out that the implementation is either hard or really not there right now. Okay, and I see that Jan P has been writing. What do you say? I am working on a cooking recipe chatbot. Okay, I'm so fed up with that product. Oh, I like the pun. Thank you, Jan. Okay. All right. Moving on from that, what are we at next? I'm a little all over the place.
So Google dropped the support for the Usenet, the user network, the original social network, the
Oh, yeah.
OG of the networks.
That's right. I think we were talking about a lot of OG tech and people today, right? So yeah,
So
this is
it's
Mhm,
not
go ahead.
this is not something everybody is familiar with, but it's like the counterpart of the development of the internet itself.
Mhm.
And
Did you ever
I think
use Usenet?
I actually never used it. I just knew what it is, but I
Yeah.
actually never used it. I just read that it's nowadays it's full of spam and like
I used it very early on for a
Mhm.
bit, and then I got into, I think it was the alt Unix, um, area, and that's when people started getting into like flame wars about whether or not
Mm.
BSD Unix or AT&T Unix, I forget what the other one is, System 5 Unix or BSD Unix was like better. And people got really, really passionate about it. And they would get to the point where they would get really, really hot. And I decided after that, I just did not want to be in these forums anymore because it's just like nothing productive was coming. It was becoming like religious wars, you know? And that was my first encounter with like things like flame wars, right? I don't know what you call them today when people are, or when they're trolling, right? Some people, just like say things just to be contrarian to get a reaction, and that was happening there. But you know, it was a very isolated space, and it was mostly university stuff for a very long time. And then when the internet came in, it started taking on, more and more things. And they have these cultural channels. You know, there's the alt sex, there's the alt, movies, and so on. And it became less and less just tech and more everything else. But it's really interesting because there are so many different types of forums and discussion spaces. Like you could think about Reddit and Quora being something like this too, right? To some degree, you know.
Yeah.
And even Stack Overflow to some degree, like being, a very specific portion of what Usenet was. So it's I was actually surprised to hear that Usenet was still around, is still around, you know?
Yeah.
And so,
True.
maybe it's
Like
about time
so-
that I was going to say maybe it's about time that Google Groups dropped them. I don't know.
yeah. As I said, I wasn't there, but it's the same. I think with IRC, it's
Mhm.
like many people don't even know what it is. Like, oh my god, what? I never heard of it. But
Yeah.
it's still around, and people are still there. I haven't connected for a long time, but let's
Yeah.
see. Maybe I will do in the future something again.
Folks, I just want to point out, by the way, that I'm glad that you're here. If you're still here with us and you're following along right now, thank you so much. We would love it if you would just hit that like button and show your appreciation. And the more likes we get, the more we get pushed by the YouTube algorithm, so that others who are also of the type of people that might like this will be able to find it. So appreciate you being here, and looking forward to seeing you in the new year as we continue on with the rest of this. So anyway, when you get a chance, hit that like button. Thank you so much. All right, and where are we next after Usenet? Oh, we didn't. Okay, let me just do this one because I have something here. So there are a lot of companies that are either paring away or dropping some of their product lines or maybe some product features. And among them is Verizon. And Verizon over the years has been known to pick up, I don't know what you would call them, sort of leftover technologies, right? They bought they bought Yahoo, right? They bought Tumblr, like these tools and platforms that had at one time been something big on their own and had fallen into a state of I don't know what it's not grace anymore. They've really fallen away from their high point. And one of them is a tool that I used when I was over at MongoDB. MongoDB was funded at the time. Now they're a public company, so they're not privately funded anymore. But one of their VC funders was Sequoia Capital, and Sequoia also funded a company called Blue Jeans. And Blue Jeans at the time, and I don't know what it is like today, but it was really like a Zoom competitor. It was used for teleconferencing. And I remember that we used them because we got a big discount because they were in the family. And they weren't bad. I mean, they were good. But, you know, I happen to like Zoom better because Zoom was a little more scrappy. And it's really interesting to me. And I know based on the billing at the time that Blue Jeans was a rather expensive product. And so it's really a surprise to me that Blue Jeans ended up with Verizon. I don't know what the story is behind that. We haven't had a chance to look it up. Just kind of found this very recently. And I'm probably going to spend some time trying to find out what happened there. But Blue Jeans is no more. It is, you know, Verizon has now killed it. So sorry, Blue Jeans. It was great knowing you back in the day. All right.
Yeah, I would like to point out here, as you mentioned, Yahoo and all that stuff being bought by Verizon.
Yeah.
Interestingly, there is in Japan, Yahoo Japan separated and became independent, and it's running just fine. But that's very, I would say, specialty of the Japanese market.
I think it's a very unusual case also for some of these giants that have fallen down, right? Whether it's Friendster or MySpace or any of those, right? Even Tumblr, that there is a foreign element out there that is still continuing on its own and is healthier than its American counterpart. Very, very, you know, interesting being in tech. Things grow quickly, they explode, and then sometimes they die quickly, and sometimes they die with a whimper. And moving on to that, I will mention now some of you may have received a newsletter that I've done on occasion. It's very, you know, I haven't really been good with it, but what I used was a tool called Tiny Letter. And Tiny Letter, for those of you who know it, is you know, it's a very minimalist email newsletter. And it was one of the first ones. It was, I think, founded back, I think it was like in 2012. You know, I discovered it back in, I think, 2016, and I did a couple of newsletters out of there for a very short time. And what was great about it is that it's really bare bones. It's only focused on being able to get a newsletter out. It's got a WYSIWYG interface that allows you to write your newsletter and allowed you to have up to 5,000 subscribers. Now, a lot of other newsletter services, including MailChimp, which, by the way, in 2014, I believe, bought Tiny Letter, and with the intention eventually of like closing it down. And then there was a lot of uproar, and they kept it on. They said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep it the way it is. But if you go and you sign up with some of these newsletter services, and I'll get to Substack in a minute because it's a little different, many of them have these caps on being able to use it as a free service in terms of the amount of emails that you can send out per month or the amount of subscribers that you can have without having to pay. And MailChimp, for instance, I believe has a tier where I think it's either the first 200 or 500 are free, and then any more subscribers than that you have to pay for. Obviously, there is a conflict where if all you want is a bare bones email service, Tiny Letter gives you up to 5,000. You're only limited at 500 with MailChimp. You get a lot more services, you get a lot more features, you get a lot more capability. But if you don't need any of those, you don't need them. But MailChimp isn't making any money from you for anything over those 200 or 500, whatever the minimum number is. And so it kind of made sense that over time, MailChimp would turn around and shut it down. And that's what they've done. So I believe at the end of January this year, all Tiny Letter accounts are going to be shut down. So if any of you actually has a Tiny Letter account, you might want to go in there and download your content before they, cut it off altogether. So that's one that I have a relationship with. I'm going to miss it. I wish I'd used it more, but I'm going to be using Substack going forward. So any of you guys are interested, just let me know and I'll add you to the list. All right. And with that, let's get on to something aspirational. Android users that want the same kind of status level as iPhone users on Messenger, right? Storyteller?
Yes, so that's what Beeper was all about, because Apple is one of those walled gardens, so they have to have everything special, including how you send messages, and they usually wrap it around in the flowery language of privacy, security, and in case of Apple, oftentimes they actually do have some encryption. So so Beeper was about to kind of make it, possible to send secure messages to Apple and appear as secure and all that stuff. But it appears that Apple was not happy about that because it was, our outside service. And as they described, it's, the Beeper guys just got tired of constantly, playing, catch, with mouse, all that stuff. So they decided, like, okay, it's just, if they are going to constantly give us the business, and because it's like, oh, one day it's working, next day it's not working, 2 days, we do have workaround, it's working again, and on and on and on the game went. So yeah, they decided, okay, enough is enough, and we have better stuff to do with our time.
Küster, you made an observation here, right? That this seems to be like an American aspirational thing, because you were saying in Europe.
No, I assumed that because I think in the US, iPhone is the dominant device, the dominant mobile device, and but I think in Europe the market is much more mixed up with Android devices, and I also never thought that actually someone would really care about such a status. I mean, of course, if the whole market is saturated by iPhone devices, then it looks weird when you're that one guy coming up with your ZTE or something cheap as Android phone. And so that might. So I was thinking, like, maybe this is a US only thing.
I read an article not too long ago that said that in Europe it's not even as much an issue because most people aren't using the native message application. They use WhatsApp. And so the idea of like having this blue or green bubble doesn't really matter because most people aren't using their native their device native application anyway.
Yeah, it may also be due to some phone companies still charge people for these messages, the native messages. I mean, they made such a huge amount of money, and when you're in a country like Germany and you see what the conditions for these mobile phone contracts are, you're thinking like I'm here in the welcome to the Stone Age, and they still charge you for short messages. Like,
oh gosh,
what the hell is going on? And what the amount of mobile data you get for them. Okay, sorry, I'm drifting apart, but they may also be the case. I mean, we still have a few items here, right?
Yeah, I think this kind of also just kind of want to point this because there is also big discrepancy between, you could say, the cities in America, especially the rich cities like or used to be rich cities like Los Angeles, New York, versus the rest of the country. And I do recall when I was in college, somebody reading like an article, someone writing, is anybody still using Windows? I was like somebody like in there. I'm like sitting in my cafe with my latte, and I look around and I see only Macs, and I'm wondering, is anybody still using Windows machines these days? And like in the comments was like, of course in Los Angeles, in the rich town, you are going to have only Mac users for various reasons, but outside of these, people are going more for convenience and price as well. So it's outside of those, could say hotspots. It's the exact opposite. Microsoft is still one of the richest, or like maybe not the richest, corporation out there. So that I think also says that as well.
Very cool. So you have some more stuff for us, right? There are some things that have disappeared.
Yes, very quickly. Google, well, not just like Google, but I also heard that the Messenger Lite is disappearing, and Gmail Lite, which was the basic Gmail with only HTML at very basic, so it's easier on the slower computer or if you have bandwidth issues.
Yeah.
Well, as you can see here, time to use the latest Gmail. It doesn't matter if you if you have a break that barely runs JavaScript website, but
so they're forcing you to be at least Web 2.0. The light version was Web 1.0.
Well, no, Web 2.0 would be the light version, and now we are to Web 3.0.
I don't think so. No. So the whole thing was
Web 1.0 is static websites. Web 2.0 is kind of like, could say, PHP, early Facebook that we can, or early WordPress, and now with Meteor and stuff like that, that's 3.0.
Okay, I think we'll have to discuss this offline because I think we have some different versions of this. But all right, so now we don't have these sort of lighter versions, this network.
Well, you can still click here, not now, but starting February 2024, it's gone completely forever.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. We've talked a little bit about, hang on a second. Let me just see. We've gotten a couple of more comments recently. So I want to just see if there's anything that we should pop up here. Kelly says, I can't believe that Google didn't just kill groups. Oh, hang on. Oh, I think this goes back to what we were talking about before with Usenet. And then I'm not sure. Kelly, what are you mentioning before? That must be why 4 lines is more expensive than my mortgage. 4 telephone lines is that what you're talking about? I don't know. I don't know. All right. So anyway, guys, one of the other things that has happened recently in terms of big changes, Verizon buying up. He means when he says that's why four telephone lines are more expensive than his mortgage. It's because of Verizon buying up all the old tech, and it needs to make its money back. Okay, so one of the other things that has happened as we start to see things being shed at the end, right, is at not just at the end of the year, but at the end of a cycle or even a lifespan of a set of technologies, we'll see companies shedding things. And Netflix, which started out as a competitor to Blockbuster in the DVD distribution, which made it really convenient for you to get DVDs because you didn't have to get your ass off the sofa, excuse my language, and walk down to a store and come back. You could just, have it delivered to you, and really pioneered the streaming that we have today. And we talked about that a little bit about its competitors. Is completely out of the DVD business today. And that ended sometime in September. I happen to be one of those customers that still had a DVD account. And last week we sent back the last DVD, which we had watched, which was, I think it was oh my gosh, I can see it in my head. I can't remember the name of it right now. But, apparently you were allowed to keep the last one. I will tell you that the movie that I watched was not so good that we wanted to keep it, so we sent it back. So I hope that Netflix is able to process it and is not going to charge us for sending back, the DVD. And on top of that, one of the things that also changed this year and had been in the process of changing and being phased out was password sharing. For a very long time, many people would basically share access to, especially younger people, would share access to their Netflix account. Netflix threatened to end that last year, and they walked it back a bit when they were getting some pushback. But they started doing it internationally first, and then they decided to really implement it and push it all the way through here. So this year, we saw the end of password sharing among non-family members with Netflix. So that's that. All right. So that's Netflix. Okay. And where are we now? Okay. It looks like we're going to, for the sake of time, we're going to drop some stuff. And we're going to head over to things that didn't quite disappear, but are basically dead or have changed the user experience. One of those things is something that we're experiencing right now. As many of you know, I often will update and put in a new description after the show, which has a whole bunch of different links, and we use a link shortener called Bitly to do that. I got an email recently that said, hey, Bitly used to allow you to do 50 URL shortens per month. Now we're going to drop it to 5. So we're going to be looking to replace our URL shortener starting next year. I think Jan Storyteller and I have been talking about doing this in Meteor, and Küster today told us he's already started something like that, right?
Just all blue. Yeah.
So I think one of the things you might look forward to into the new year is us building this probably live and sharing that with you, the experience as we go along. And then when we're done, we'll have a service that we're going to use and we'll make available as a SaaS service that you can subscribe to. So it's another way for you to be able to support the channel if you decide that you want to use our URL shortening service when we develop and implement it. And the other thing that also happened this year was really the crippling of some free services that we've been used to. I used to use a tool called TweetDeck to plan and post tweets. Off the backs of people that weren't, making any money from them. And so they've limited what you can do, and they've taken TweetDeck, which was a free product, and now turned it into a paid service. On top of that, they've made it really expensive to access their APIs. And so third-party apps, for the most part, have pretty much died. Unless you have deep pockets, it's really hard to have a third-party app that does anything meaningful on Twitter. And following along in the Twitter suite, the folks over at Reddit thought that it was a really great idea to do something similar. And so they've also implemented such limitations. So really, in a way, it's really crippled the ability to develop applications and to pull data. It's one of those things that that it just felt wrong. And obviously it's changed the user experience or the developer experience tremendously in terms of being able to do something there. But let's get back to some very Meteor specific things, because we've kind of walked off in one direction. Let's bring it back in. And with that, I'm going to pass this on to Storyteller to give us a read on some information with regard to Meteor.
Okay, so finally, we've talked about it on a few podcasts already. There is the option to do bug bounties for Meteor, and William Reiske has taken advantage of it, and it's offering $500 bug bounty to improve performance on Windows. So if you have a Windows machine or are interested in working on this, he has put a very specific description of what is the problem, what he wants to see improved, what are the criteria, so you can, and related issues, so you can jump in and work on it and make some money and help everybody else in the ecosystem as well.
Excellent. I just wanted to bring something up because when Küster and I were looking at this, and folks, for you out there, I don't think we brought this up before, but our friend Storyteller has COVID, and we didn't think he was going to join us today. So, we originally thought that when you brought up the issue with the bounties, it was Meteor Software had at one point been directly paying developers to help out with core development and so on. Has been basically sponsoring some developers, and then at one point had decided that they were going to switch from direct sponsorship to paying out bounties. So we thought that was actually the talk, and then it's been switched back, and it's supporting both now. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's actually the story that we thought, because we thought that's how it fit in here. So, but it's cool that there is this item that people can benefit from right now. And let me pop back to you, because I think you're going to talk about packages next.
I think Jan, you wanted to say something about simple schema there.
So I have to leave quickly. It's a little bit unplanned, but sorry for that. But before I leave, I will take one more minute to talk about something that has also changed and also being replaced by something new, or I found the big change has to be made, and that is about the simple schema package. So if you know about simple schema, it's some of the deeply baked in part of some of the other packages like collection 2 or AutoForm, and it's also somewhat related, used by MTG validated method, and it has dropped Meteor support last year with its major release number 3. And I tried quite a few times to make some kind of monkey patching solution to make it Meteor compatible again, but it changed so much. I basically can monkey patch the whole package, and I decided to use this nice old Aldi simple schema Meteor package and just took the last Meteor compatible version of the npm package, moved it over to the repository we own on the Meteor community packages, and made a first stable release of the latest Meteor compatible version. Wrapped up a bit of the code, refurbished the repository, and now started working on a 3.0 compatible release with 100% Meteor support in mind. I think it will be, for mid to long term, it will be the much better solution for all of us. And yeah, so this is something I wanted to share with you. So also getting rid of the npm version again. I know some people might feel mixed about this, because many people want to have more npm and less Meteor packages in. But I think for this package, because it's on the one hand it's widely used, and it's about 100% Meteor support. So it's not about a generic solution here, but really a very close solution to Meteor. I hope this makes sense and will bring or ease up development also with its dependence like collection 2 or AutoForm in the future. Yeah, and with that, I'm out for this year. Had a lot of fun, and I have to say goodbye to you all. There's one thing I wanted to say. There are also a few items I will personally drop this year, so out with the old. And it's 3 things. It's my my old hardware. I will get some new hardware next year. Lots of cables. Maybe there will be a stream. I will show you all my nice cables I have around here. Maybe there are some cables some of you might remember from super old days. And the third one is like boxes of tech I've purchased. I have like this whole site here you can see right now is full with boxes. They're empty boxes from original boxes. This will also get out. Okay. So with that, I'm leaving and say goodbye to you all.
Happy New Year.
Happy
See
New
you
Year.
next year. Happy New Year. Goodbye.
All right, we'll see you later, Jan. Thanks for coming.
So I
All
kind
right.
of, with this big thing with collection, with simple schema, is that we are kind of moving from npm back to atmosphere. So that's very interesting. On the topic of moving out with the old, picker will be, as I mentioned previously, just get one compatibility version and then be out, and we'll have more to discuss in the coming months about the ancient packages and all the problems we'll have with them going to Meteor 3.
Yeah. So we have for you a really nice interview with one of our community members, Harry Adele, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But before we do that, we finally like to recognize some folks who've made a mark in our field, and it's in no way comprehensive. It's just a highlight of a few people. Some of the names that you might recognize, some you might not, but these are some significant players. I will list out a few of them, tell you their contributions, and then Storyteller will give you the rest, and then we'll get into the interview section that we have with Harry. So first is for those of you who know what Moore's law is, which is that CPU power will double every 18 months. I think this is something that we've all been familiar with. That's something that was stated by a gentleman by the name of Gordon Moore. And Gordon Moore is one of the co-founders of Intel. And of course, he's the guy behind Moore's law. He passed away this year. So, thanks for your contributions, Gordon. There's a lot more that he did than this, but we don't have a lot of time to get into it. We just need to kind of move on here. For many of us who use TIFFs, GIFs, PostScript, PDFs, or use the compress command from Unix 5, maybe you know that you're using the LZW compression algorithm in that. And two of the folks behind that, Abraham Lempel and Jacob Ziff, passed away this year. It's kind of odd that both of them, kind of coincidental that both of them, but it shouldn't be in air quotes. It's a real coincidence. It's not a coincidence like there's a conspiracy. I'm sorry that I did that. But they passed away this year. So yes, they passed away. They really did pass away. There's obituaries on it. So again, really seminal contributions that we use and we don't even know and don't necessarily acknowledge all the time. And of course, there was also John Warnock, who is the inventor of PostScript and the co-inventor of PDF. He is also the co-founder of Adobe, and he also passed away this year. So those are three luminaries that I had on my list. And are you gonna? I guess Storyteller will pick up on the rest of them that we have here. I think there are four more, right?
Yes, let me. Okay, so another one that we are saying goodbye to is David Turner, who you could say was one of the original, functional programming pioneers. He pioneered the Miranda language, influenced Haskell, and went on to influence the field in many ways in general. And I think everybody has used PowerPoint, and one of the co-creators of PowerPoint, Dennis Austin, has left us this year as well. And then, especially for, I would say, programming purists who still use Vim, I'm sorry to say, but the creator of Vim is also with us no more. So
he was also the benevolent dictator for life of the project. Yes.
So I'm guessing there is now a succession crisis or a power struggle in the Vim dictatorship or kingdom. So that's we shall see how that is going to turn out. And finally on my list is Kevin Mitnick, who is at one point was considered as the most wanted hacker, and he has quite an interesting story. I would highly recommend looking it up because it's lot of fun stuff. Like even when he was under supervision, he still was hacking away, and then of course he created a white hat hacking group. So yeah, one of the the big hackers who defined the field, especially then later on with white hacking, is gone as well.
It's it's really something. It's very interesting because when he was very unrepentant when he was younger, like he got in trouble again and again and again. He just kind of thumbed his nose at authority, and then eventually he turned his life around and he went the other way. So, really, people can redeem themselves, and it's really nice to see that that he is well remembered beyond just his notoriety, right? So there is that. Okay, and that's it for our in memoriam section, and I think we'll go on to main event now.
Yes, here we have a, let's say, short interview with Harry Adele, who, if you were around a bit, especially on Meteor Core and a lot of the going packages, you recognize as a contributor. Most recently, could say known for his underscore removal pull requests. So with that as the main topic, let's see what Harry has to say. Anything else you want? So, Harry, recently a lot of your PRs got merged, and there is still a lot of them remaining. These are all centered around removal of the underscore library from Meteor. Why is this important? Why have so much efforts? So much PRs to get rid of underscore? What's that all about?
It's about like modernizing Meteor, and my first attempt at this actually was with Blaze. I had attempted to remove underscore from Blaze. So once that got done, I moved on to Meteor, the bigger project. And at first it was like one huge lump of code, but it turned into a deadlock. I just kept having errors, and I didn't know why they're failing. And props to Felipe and the team. They told me hey, this wouldn't go through. That I was stubborn, but I found out yeah, it's not the best. So I had to split it up, and thankfully lots of them got merged. And funny thing is this work and the underscore is almost more than 1 year in the making. I started this in 2022, I suppose. So for it to be finally getting merged in, it's huge. And yeah, almost half is already merged in the 2.14 release, and hopefully in the 2.15, the pre 3.0 release, we would have the rest. And yeah, hopefully this would trim Meteor size down and keep it lean, and allow Meteor and Meteor developers in general to use more ES6 native functions instead of helper code. So yeah.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me, because for me, there is this, if you search, you don't need underscore, there is this nice GitHub repository that kind of goes through it. So if you are still using it, most of the things you can get rid of. So for you, it was mostly to get rid of an extra dependency that had a lot of other things attached to it. Would that be a correct definition?
Exactly. And but I tried to take small steps. So I did use lots of mini functions, npm dependencies. So that's a step. Maybe next step, even go all in even more on the native functions listed here.
Sounds awesome. So yeah, so most of it got merged in 2.14. You said hopefully 2.15 and 3.0 will finish off the job.
Yeah.
So do you think it's going to take longer than that, or after that, kind of what's the plan? So once we merge all these, pull requests for underscore, what's the next step there?
Like once all of the core packages are like _free, there is like this final PR that like deprecates the official _ package. Okay, it's like the CI is failing, of course, because I remove it. Yeah, the first one. So like once all of the core packages are like _free, this one gets merged in, and finally, Meteor is one package less. And I like it's a good step, especially with the 3.0 release. Lots of packages are being deprecated, and like for instance, he also deprecated the app cache, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
So we're trying to keep Meteor small and not burden it, especially with like out of date packages.
So speaking of kind of that, out of date packages and other things, what contribution to Meteor are you kind of the most proud of?
I would say the SOC.js update, because in a way it like insinuates like my growth as a developer, because I had attempted this before, but I I kept like stubbornly trying to like force it, and why isn't this working? So like I shut it down, and later on I like did another go at it, and I just like calmly read through the code, figured out, what the changes the Meteor team did. Are they like needed right now? So like, and it finally worked, and I managed to find out why it wasn't going through. So that's like, although it's not big in terms of like, impact, for me, it's a little win, because like, yeah, like I said, I tried it once, I didn't understand why it wasn't working, but later on, give it some time and revisit it again, and I was able to like manage it. So yeah, that's my proudest mini moment.
Yeah, well, the removal of over 2,000 lines of code, I think, is always a good thing. Makes things smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of on our topic today, out with the old. What do you think will be the next big old thing that we'll have to upgrade or kind of remove from Meteor?
Like the next big thing for Meteor, like
After
honestly,
3.0.
well, it would like go along with the 3.0. It's definitely in the packages, and I would also like to highlight the forum post I did. We're looking for like help from all the people we can. Um, like collection 2 is almost done. Okay.
Mhm.
So I would like gladly love if lots of people can jump in and help us out. And the packages update, the community packages getting a 3.0 update is currently like the biggest thing.
Yeah, so in a way, I think that kind of goes to what I've been kind of mentioning for a while, is that we'll have to have big revision in the community packages to see which one are still alive and which one we can
Yeah.
consolidate.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. That's so that's for you is kind of the next frontier.
Yeah.
Well, I apologize. I'm still a bit sick, so I'll have to kind of
Okay.
end it here. Would love to chat with you more. Hopefully, we'll get
Fine.
opportunities in the future. Where can people find you? Where can people reach out to you, or where do you want them to direct people to look at? Maybe like outside of other things.
Like you can find me on the forums, Harry 97, and you can also find me on my GitHub, Harry Adel, and yeah, that's where you can find me most, and I would be happy to reply to anyone.
And I also see that recently you got accepted into the
Yeah.
GitHub sponsors program.
Yeah.
So, well, Harry, get on this. We want to see this, page, not the defaults anymore. We want to see what you can offer, and so that people can support you.
Yeah, man.
So, with that said, thank you very much, Harry. Happy New Year, and hopefully we'll see you around a lot more in the next year as well.
Hopefully. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. That's that was pretty good. It's good to see Harry being interviewed there, and it's great to see that his contributions are being recognized. So Jan, thank you so much for doing that interview and making him feel welcome. Appreciate that very much.
It was my pleasure. I apologize for sounding, as you can hear probably now, today I'm a bit better than I was yesterday when we recorded this. So hopefully I will get better and be able to be
You sounded like you were going to fall over at some point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so we're coming to the close at this point. Again, if you guys are finding value in this, we would love it if you would subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a lot. We have been, I think, up to 137 subs now. It feels like it's not that long ago when we started with only 20 subs back in September, or was it August? Late August, right? When we first started. Yeah. And now we're there. So thank you guys so much. We love that you're here and that you keep coming back and you're part of this. If you have the time and you can participate, we encourage you very much to do as some of our members here have been doing, which is they've been sending us notes in the chat. And somebody, again, this is Elon Musk. I don't know if Elon is related to Elon, but are you able to read this? Because I don't have my glasses on. And
yes, I began using Meteor with the company I joined 3 months ago. I really hope I'll be able to help you in the future.
Okay, if that company is either Starlink or SpaceX or Tesla, I think you could do wonderful things with it. And just don't buy us, because that can be a little chaotic. And it is what it is there. But I think hopefully you'll get some really great benefit out of it. Tell us how we can help you, and we'll see what we can do in terms of connecting you with resources, bringing appropriate news that is useful to you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, thank you for joining us today, Olan. And I don't know if that's your name or your handle or a joke, but in any case, we appreciate you being here.
Yes, there is a lot of opportunities, so it's just a matter of what you want to do. And speaking of opportunities, Alim, you had something prepared.
We do. So one of the things we're going to try to do is give you guys opportunities to speak. And one of the reasons I like doing meetups, and I have done them in the past, is getting people from the community to share their experiences with Meteor and with their software development and their own personal growth as engineers in the profession. And so we're starting to highlight some of the conferences that are coming up for two reasons. One is the focus right now are conferences that are looking for speakers, but also we will also be posting some of these so that if your company has a budget or you have a budget and you want to go to certain conferences, we can let you know what is in the field that might be of interest to you. So right now, we know that there are about, from our list, we have 5 conferences that are closing out their call for papers next month in January. The first of which is MLConf, and that is in Munich, and they're closing out their call for papers on the 8th of January. We have a link to it that we're going to share in the show notes afterwards. On the 9th of January, JavaScript Conference, that's what it's called, that's going to be held in San Diego this year, is closing out their call for papers. On the 14th, the Open Source Summit North America in Seattle is closing out theirs. And on the 28th, App.js is closing out, which is going to be held in Krakow, is going to be closing out their call for papers. And finally, Node TLV, which is going to be held in Tel Aviv, is closing out their call for papers on the 31st. I encourage as many of you as possible to, submit a proposal, try to get out there. If you are going to think of giving a talk where Meteor is part of it, I think that's wonderful evangelism for the software, for the platform, as well as a way for you to develop your own personal brand and let people know more about what you can do. So that's it for that. And I think we move on right now to the feedback section. And we got a little feedback last week, which was some people were asking for some information to be put into the description for the show notes for last week. And it was specifically, requested to Küster. Normally, when we get these requests, they're not specifically, asking any one person for an action. It usually just goes out generally. And so when we got these and they were all focused on Küster and he wasn't looking at them at the time, I will apologize for not getting the response in. So Jan has actually responded to let you know that, there will be an update in the show notes. I have some notes from him that I'm going to populate over there. And so you'll be able to see it. So Laurent, who had a question out to him, and Michael Scharf, thank you for posting your questions. And unfortunately, we did not get back to you at the speed that we normally do. I hope that you forgive us for that and that you'll continue to listen to the program, participate, ask questions, interact with us. We love having you guys here, and we love doing this for you. So with that, just a couple of reminders. Jan? Oh, your your microphone is off.
Damn it, that's why, because I'm coughing so much. Anyhow, if you are still with us here, press the like button down here. That will really help us again. It's a nice little gift that you can give us at the end of the year, and also mark for yourself that you have watched this episode.
And I will interject on behalf of my friend so that he doesn't have to ask for it himself, and remind you that, our team and others, and as you can see, Harry is one of them, and so on, that contributes to Meteor software, to the platform, to the core project, as well as to the packages that we all use and benefit from, that many of them are doing this on their own time and on their own dime. And so if you can, many of them have, including both the Jan brothers here, have GitHub sponsorships. And if you're able to, please consider sponsoring them so that they can, maintain their coffee addiction, and that allows them to continue coding into the wee hours of the night and making sure that bugs get fixed and your features are implemented. So if you want to show some appreciation, please do so by sponsoring these wonderful developers that do the work that we all benefit from. All right. And with that, I will say you're going to look towards next week when we walk into the new year. And we did out with the old, and we're going to be talking in with the new next week. So unless Jan has something to add here, I'm going to say this has been a very long episode, probably the longest we've done so far. So thank you for sticking with us, and have a great weekend. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year, everybody.
All right.